Also joining us tonight, a team of legal experts, criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara, CNN chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller, former federal prosecutor Jessica Roth, who currently teaches at New York's Cardozo School of Law, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson, also jury consultant Jill Huntley Taylor. Jessica, let me just start off with everybody here. Did you have any idea it would be this quick, the deliberations, and this result?
I'm not surprised by the result. I am surprised by the speed. In fact, I'm shocked by the speed. I never anticipated that we would have a guilty verdict within 3 hours.
This was a complex trial with a lot of witnesses, a lot of evidence.
Well, what the speed suggests to me is that the jury didn't see it as being that complicated at all, actually. And at the end of the day, it was pretty straightforward. It really amounted to the video of the defendant at the kennels that was on Paul's phone that he didn't know existed until fairly recently. The lie that he told to the police officers about not being at the kennels, even though he was caught on the videotape being at the kennels, and the timeline, the fact that he had the opportunity to commit the murder, and really nobody else plausibly did. That's what it came down to. That's pretty straightforward.
I want to show, we're showing that video. I don't know if we, okay, as soon as we have the sound of it, we'll show you to you in full. Oh, here, you can hear it.
That's okay. Come here. It's not bad. Come here, Cash. Post it. Cat.
Joey, let's talk about the importance of this video. This was a video that Alec Murdaugh did not know existed until into the trial or at some point in the investigation. This was his son's testimony, essentially. This proved that Alec Murdaugh was at the scene very close to the killings.
Yeah, damning evidence. And when you spin a narrative and you don't know what lies around the corner that might contradict the narrative you're spinning, which is, I wasn't there, it becomes a problem. Why would you say you weren't there? What motivation would you have to lie? And so when you have the video which connects him to the scene, the prosecution talked, Anderson, a lot about something we all lawyers talk about, common sense. What is the human element and human factor? What do we experience every day as people? And ultimately they said, you know what? He lied before. He continues to lie. He looked his clients in the eye and lied to them. He's lying to us. He's guilty. That's what they said through their verdict.
We have some video of, in the courtroom, people identifying the voice on that video, because in the background, you hear Alec Murdaugh speaking, and that is what the evidence showed, that he was at the scene. The defense contradicted that, said, in fact, it was not Alec Murdaugh's voice. Let's listen to some of the testimony.
And did you recognize the voices on there?
I did.
Did you recognize the voices of your second family?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Miss Taylor.
And how sure are you now?
Positive.
100%?
That's correct.
Mark O'Mara, Alec Murdaugh essentially had to take the witness stand in order to clear this up and to change his story and to say that he had been lying.
That one piece of evidence may have been the tipping point for why he had to get on the stand. As Joey knows, we all know, it is very difficult to put a criminal defendant on the stand because they can be the state's best witness. Turned out to be, in this case, exactly that. And without that video, there may have been a balancing of not putting him on the stand and submitting him to cross-examination. But he had to explain away this video. And like you said, this was Paul's testimony, and it was a testimony the jury listened to very loudly, very clearly, and with a 3-hour verdict very quickly.
John, are you surprised by this, too?
Well, no, because I watched much of the trial. But the second thing is, you know, when you have a criminal trial and you have a fast verdict, often that is a verdict in favor of the prosecution, in my experience. But, you know, you look at the case, it's a circumstantial case. The alternative theory to the circumstantial case was pretty weak. And you have a defendant who is on the stand who is established in that storyline as being a liar, a cheater, and someone who steals. And when he takes the stand, a lot of that's riding on his credibility. So there were a number of factors here that made a case that had its weak spots really hard to get around.
In terms of sentencing, I mean, what does the judge take into account?
Well, the judge is going to take into account, first and foremost, the evidence that was introduced at the case about the murders, the facts and circumstances, the manner of the killing. The judge already tipped his hand a bit today by saying after the verdict came in, when he was denying the defense motion to set aside the verdict based on insufficient evidence, that he thought the evidence was overwhelming. And I thought that the judge, who had been really so sort of even-tempered and calm throughout the trial, he remained calm, but I thought he sort of showed his view of the evidence at last, and when he characterized it as overwhelming.
We actually heard from Buster Murdaugh, the only surviving son of Alec Murdaugh. I want to play just a little bit of him on the stand if we had that video.
They did him so bad. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize your dad's voice?
I do.
If you listen to it, would you be able to tell the jury whether it's I or they?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd like to pull up Exhibit 153, the clip.
Sit there. It's so bad. It's so bad.
What'd your dad say?
Said they did him so bad.
Was that the first time you'd heard him say they did him so bad?
No, sir.
When was the first time you heard him say they did him so bad?
First time I heard him say that was the night that I went down to Moselle, the night of June the 7th.
Did he say that more than one time?
He did.
1 second, Your Honor. Let me check to see what I left out. Just very briefly, Buster, you've heard testimony during this trial that your dad was stealing money from clients. Did
Yes,
you know
sir.
anything about that?
No, sir.
And just lastly, roughly how long would it take to clean a dog run down at the kennels? 2 dog runs, for example.
Roughly, I'd say 10 minutes or so.
Okay. And what do you have to do?
You got to get the hose, turn the hose on, spray out the dog kennels. You got to, put the bed on top of the wooden box so the bed's not wet.
Now, what are you spraying? Dog manure?
Yeah, spraying, dog poop.
And it spreads out, and you've got to.
That's right. Yeah, you got to spray it, make sure it's all out of there. Spray it to the back.
Oh, all right. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Joey, what's interesting about hearing from Buster Murdaugh, and again, video playing such a crucial role, whether or not Alec Murdaugh, and it'll be interesting to see whether the jury believed that Alec Murdaugh was saying, I did them so bad, or if this turned out to be an important piece.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the theory was that this was a confession. That's what the prosecution was adopting as the notion to introduce this, that he was saying, right, on the video, I did them so bad. So now you have to bring his son in to say, no, he said they did him so bad. Did you hear him say that before? Yes, I heard my dad say that before, trying to go to the notion that they, whoever they is, of course, we know the theory of the defense was that there were multiple shooters, that there were other people who meant him harm, him, right, being Paul, in addition to, right, the mom. And so therefore, I think that's what they had to clarify. Obviously, that wasn't enough. I think last thing, Anderson, I think it came down to the credibility and the lack of trust. I think this was a defendant who admitted what he had to admit and denied what he had to deny. And as we discussed before, when you go down an avenue and you're creating a story, and then all of a sudden videos pop up that suggest that you're there, that's something that you just cannot overcome, particularly when you say and admit you lied to everyone in your life. Why would you not be lying to that jury?
Let's play that video again, just the sound of Alec Murdaugh in the police vehicles and what he actually said.
When Paul's phone came out, did you just pick it up and put it on, place it back down on him, or?
Yeah, I did not try to open it or anything. I don't know how I had in my mind that I needed to not mess anything up. I had that, somehow I had that presence of mind that I needed to not mess anything up. And so I tried not to.
And you definitely saw a traumatic picture, and I know it's not hard, or not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough.
It's just so bad. They did it so bad.
So that was the key moment. Mark O'Mara, how important? I mean, I don't know if we will ever get an answer from the jury about what they thought of that moment, but how important was that piece of video, you think?
I will tell you the truth. I thought that was a weak moment for the state to try and present that as a confession. Now, a Freudian slip confession, possibly, but I don't think that they should have really focused on that as being some massive confession of him, because quite honestly, there is a couple of interpretations of it. And with a circumstantial evidence case, you have to be a little bit careful with the jury going beyond, in effect, the permission they give you. They put together a very good case. I didn't think that was particularly compelling. I thought I heard the word I rather than they. But again, I don't think it really mattered too much. I think that they needed to put together the case that they did, and this wasn't a compelling component of it.
I want to bring in the jury consultant, Jill Huntley-Taylor. Jill, it's so fascinating to see these videos now of Alec Murdaugh breaking down, whether it's in that police vehicle, breaking down the night of the killings, breaking down on the stand, with the realization that certainly the jury believes he was lying all along and did in fact murder these people, his wife and his son. Talk a little bit about just, as somebody who is a jury consultant, about this, the deliberations they took. Were you surprised by the speed of this?
In hindsight, no. Now that we know what the verdict is, the 3 hours, they must have all agreed. They must not have had any doubt. I think all of the testimony that they saw, the science, the technology, the emotion, was a lot for them to have to deal with. And so I think we all going into their deliberations expected that 100 witnesses and all of this testimony, there would be a lot for them to pour over. But, at the end of the day, they must have all really been on the same page going from the start. So that's why their deliberations were pretty quick.
It is extraordinary, the career this man has had. I mean, this is the oldest of old boy networks in this part of South Carolina. His great-grandfather was the prosecutor. His grandfather was the prosecutor. His father was the prosecutor. I mean, it is an extraordinary, God knows what they were doing over the last 100 years when they were the power in this community. But we see what he has done with the limited power that he had. I mean, he was defrauding people right and left.
Well, it seems that the line ends with him. But one of the things that I thought was so extraordinary about this trial throughout were the sort of the personal references from the lawyers, for example, to the defendant's father and grandfather. When the defendant's son Buster was on the stand, the prosecutor who was questioning him, cross-examination, expressed sorrow for Buster's losses and mentioned Buster's grandfather, I believe, and how the prosecutor had worked under him in the solicitor's office, and he was very good to me. And there were a number of references to family members throughout the trial. And I thought that was just a fascinating layer of this. It showed sort of the local sort of aspect of this and how important this family had been ingrained in law enforcement for so many generations.
John, I mean, as somebody who's been involved in investigations, when you see the series of events that took place before these killings from his son Paul crashing a boat in which somebody was killed, and then there was questions about who was actually driving the boat. Was it Paul? Was it somebody else? Did law enforcement kind of protect Paul in a way? Did they not do a good job of actually ascertaining who was driving? A dead body of a young gay man in the road, some perhaps connection to the Murdaugh family.
The housekeeper falling down the stairs. Yes. The money being stolen from the insurance company. I mean, what you get
him
here,
allegedly paying somebody to shoot him in the head who turned out to be a distant cousin, and it wasn't as presented.
Right, exactly. First he tried to fake, his own murder. But I mean, you see that there's this pattern of, getting away with murder, which, didn't include getting away with this murder. And I think one of the differences is you may have all that influence, you may have all those friends, you may have the family connections and the money, but as a great Supreme Court justice said a long time ago, the best antiseptic is a bright and shining light, and there was a lot of attention on this case. There was no getting away with this murder.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break. Our coverage continues in just a moment.